right, everyone. So we have seen some things happen in the last 24 hours or so that have really changed the dynamic of things going on in the world regarding political maneuvering, also the Mideast lineup, what's going to happen with China and Russia now. I don't really need to say much on that, but we're going to get into some things because I think they're really necessary. And I also want to say, first of all, welcome to our weekly prophecy update. And I intend to get to the life of David here in just a few minutes. So much to talk about, but let's just get rolling right now. So let me start here. I received this question. I think it came in on either YouTube or Facebook the other day, based on my midweek update, which was titled "The Collapse Has Begun, Civilization in Crisis Part 2. This person, Flannery164, asked this question. It's a good question, one that I think needs to be addressed. They said, Pastor Tom, Tucker Carlson interviewed Ted Cruz. Does the Bible say we are to protect Israel as in the government or the people? I see everywhere how the Israeli government is behind so many things that are not biblical. I don't think they are innocent if you truly do some research. Please give us your input. Thank you, and God bless. All right, that being said, I want to say this. I am going to address that question in a full message, probably towards the end of July on a Sunday night. I will do a prophecy update, but I'm gonna base it on that. What do we do with the nation of Israel? Does it mean when someone like me says, I stand with Israel, I support Israel, does it mean I support everything that the government does? Well, I'll put it in a real simple word. No, it doesn't mean that. But what does it mean then to support Israel, to stand with Israel? And I think that's just a great question. And quite frankly, I think as we move further and further along, if you are someone like me that supports Israel, that is labeled as a Christian Zionist, we need to be able to give an answer for why we believe such a thing. We can't just say, well, I support Israel because that's what you're supposed to do. It's being able to think through things. So I do have a book that, I've been mentioning this. It's going to be given to, it's not going to be for sale on Amazon. It's not going to be even for sale on Hope for Times. It's just going to be a gift that I'm giving to everybody who has financially supported Hope for Times in 2025 up to this point. Even if you haven't, you'd like to, we will get that to you. It's going to be either June 30th or July 1st. You'll receive it. It's an ebook. It's also going to be audio. You can download it too. But I want to give it to you guys, and it's my way of saying thank you, but it's God's eternal plan for Israel, where I explain things biblically. But what I want to do in a message coming up at the end of July, take that question and answer it. And I think it deserves a full answer so we all have an understanding. In fact, I will even give non-biblical reasons regarding Israel. What are the non-biblical things? Because I think we need to be able to have that conversation. I'm not an argumentative person, but I believe sitting down with someone, having that conversation who disagrees with us, being able to reason through things, and then also with this book that I have coming out next week, it gives us the biblical understanding of God's eternal plan for Israel. So please be praying for me as I put together that message, and I really do want you guys to be blessed with that book that's coming out next week, June 30th, July 1st, right in there, you'll receive it. Okay, if you have partnered with us financially to help support us, we're not supported by church, not supported by an organization, it's just you guys, so thank you. All right, let's get to it, all right? So Fordo has been bombed. I was on Ricky Scaparo's video podcast the other day, earlier in the week. We talked about that. Ezekiel 38, what's this look like going forward? At that time, I mentioned I believe Fordo needed to be taken out. It's a huge problem that just overshadows everything in the region. Saudi Arabia wasn't happy about it, by the way, not just Israel. Remember, Iran is a Shiite nation. And she had and Sunnis don't get along. I believe about 10% of Muslims are Shiite. The majority of them by far are Sunnis. Nevertheless, Fordo has now been eliminated. By the way, I do want to say this too. I did speculate, and I think it was on my Thursday evening prophecy update, that there's a possibility that what is going to happen is Fordo wasn't going to be bombed, and I gave reasons why, that there could be a regime change, and then the people of Iran or even Mossad or something like that could dismantle Fordo. But nevertheless, that didn't happen. We all know that. Okay, so as we move forward, I want to say this. It was, wow, what a shocker. Everything has changed, folks. Everything has changed. Lots of questions to ask. What were the Chinese planes doing a few days ago? The 20 Chinese planes that shut off their transponders that were flying into Iran. I think we're going to get more and more clarity on it. I think it's quite probable, not necessarily chemical weapons now as I look at it, which I first thought it was. I'm thinking right now, probably what it was, China was suspecting that Trump was going to do something like he did, and they went in to get all of their equipment out that they could, and probably even their scientists or whoever that were working with Iran. So don't know exactly what was going on there, but I will tell you this. China and Russia have now been put on notice that you better be very careful in dealing with Trump. He means what he says. He says, hey, I'm going to do this. Now, of course, he said, I'll give you 2 weeks. Things have changed. So why did Trump not give 2 weeks? Well, I don't know. Was he just doing what the Islamic regimes do? Just say they're going to say they want peace when they really don't want peace, with Trump saying, hey, I'm going to give you 2 weeks, but I'm going to, can't be, knowing he was going to do this. It was, listen, the whole thing was on alert the whole time. Trump had made it very clear, regardless, even though he said 2 weeks, he made it very clear, hey, I've got these bombers there, and I could pull the trigger at any time to drop these bombs. And he did. I want you to think of this, though. Shortly before Fordo and the other sites were bombed, listen to this. Senior Iranian official to Reuters, if we have to choose between stopping uranium enrichment and war, we choose war. So this is the reality of what is really going on. So Trump would have known that. Listen, they were not interested in negotiating. It's laughable also. I saw some of the news with Ayatollah saying, well, we want to go negotiate. We're not going to negotiate with Trump. We're only going to negotiate with it was Germany, France, and the UK. And I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me. They're in bed with their governments are just proven to be in bed with these Islamic regimes. So of course, this is what Ayatollah is going to say. So as you look at things, the facts that are out there, Ayatollah says, we don't care what Trump says. We are not going to enter into peace. We're going to keep stringing along the Europeans. We want the Europeans to lead this peace charge over there, over here in Iran, because everybody knows the Europeans wouldn't do anything. Fordo would have had their nuclear weapons. All right, so let's move on from there. Check this out. Fetterman, remember Fetterman? Well, praises Trump for U.S. strikes on Iran nuclear sites. It was the correct move. I was watching Van Jones. Some of you remember Van Jones, where he used to work for Obama. I was watching him in a CNN interview just the other day, where he was saying Iran is very evil. Iran needs to be dealt with. Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. It was very fascinating as you're watching this, even from people on the left. Yet we also are watching the rise of the alt-right. The alt-right is just getting bolder and bolder, folks. And as we are watching things develop, it's like, man, look out. Okay, let's move forward. So I believe Russia and China are now on notice. What in the world is Trump going to do? So China was threatening, we're going to go into Taiwan. Trump has let Putin know over and over, listen, you need to back off of Ukraine. You guys need to fix Ukraine. So maybe now that he's done this in Iran, and he's clearly, Israel is one with boots on the ground. U.S. has never even talked about putting boots on the ground over there with the Iran war. no matter what some people are saying, especially on the alt-right, that this is what Trump wants. He hasn't put boots on the ground. He says, Russia, Ukraine, you guys got to fix that. Israel, we will give you the tools necessary. And bottom line is this Iranian threat needed to be dealt with. I'm going to get to what this looks like prophetically in just a minute going forward. But there is this concern now about sleeper cells in America. We know that there are Iranian operatives that are here in America. Also, Iran has a whole lot of missiles. It's not over yet regarding Iran. They have the big threat of Fordo. It's done. You still have the Bushehr plant, nuclear plant, which is a huge problem too. But as we look at things and start moving forward, you start to go, okay, how's this going to shape up? Will these sleeper cells that are here in America start causing terror attacks, start doing some horrific things here in America or wherever? Did Trump just trigger that? My guess is here's a real possibility is that when we saw the ridiculous No Kings protest, a week or so ago, how ridiculous was that? That didn't go too far. 198 Democrat organizations helped fund it and organize it. It wasn't spontaneous. The money, you can follow the money trail. It wasn't spontaneous. It wasn't organic. It wasn't a bunch of people who just all of a sudden, all at the same time, just decided to do this across the nation. No, it wasn't. It was funded. It was like BLM and Antifa. It was funded. However, the No Kings protest didn't develop what they were hoping it was going to. Now they're saying we're going to do it on the 4th of July and it's going to be bigger. It's going to be badder. The whole thing is just absolutely absurd. But you really got to wonder if what ICE actually was able to do during that time when everybody was distracted by that stuff and the media was distracted by that stuff. Was ICE able to go in? Have they been able to go in and arrest these Iranian radical terrorist operatives? Have they already been rounded up? Were they being rounded up over the last week, knowing full well that this event was going to escalate in Iran? Listen, whether it was the U.S. or Israel, something had to be done with that. So have these Iranian operatives already been rounded up? Have the majority of them? How many are still left? How many terror attacks will happen in the U.S. Because of them? As we move forward with this, we're not real sure. But Trump has also made it very clear, hey, if you guys don't come to the negotiating table now and you escalate things, it's only going to get much worse, much, much worse than it has been so far. And also with the people in Iran, we've talked about this many times, that there are more people coming to faith in Christ per capita in Iran than virtually anywhere else we know in the world. It didn't say greater population because China has a greater population. And it's estimated there could be as many as 300 million Chinese Christians. I've heard that estimate from 100 million to 300 million. That is an awful lot. That's a huge percentage of the population in China. But underground churches, right? Not on the outside, but underground. So I don't know how you validate those facts. Those are numbers that I've read before. But in Iran, it's estimated even greater numbers per capita, not population-wise, because Iran's a much smaller country than China is. But folks, these are truly amazing days. Okay, moving forward, what's going to happen with the Abraham Accords? Folks, they are on the table. Here's some things to keep in mind. Israel owes Trump. I want you to think about that. Trump is now in this position to say, I have done this, all right? Just think through this. And Saudi Arabia too, because Saudi Arabia and other Sunni nations were terrified of Iran. So this puts Trump in the driver's seat negotiating the Abraham Accords. Think about that. Now the Sunnis, MBS, it's like Trump did this for, what are you going to do at this point? If you're Israel, if you're MBS, if you're from Jordan, what do you do now when we watch what has happened at the same time while Israel keeps having victory after victory? I am expecting Abraham Accords to become front and center. What's going to happen with the terror groups that are surrounding Israel? Israel has been having victory after victory. And when we look at that, we think, okay, Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, and then inside Israel there's Judea and Samaria, you have Hebron, you have Shechem, you have even in Bethlehem, you have some terror groups that are there, especially in Hebron and Shechem. So what's going to happen with them? Well, they were primarily funded by Iran and, by the way, Qatar too. So, but this dries up their funding. What's going to happen to them? Israel has to be in peace, folks, for Ezekiel 38 to come about. And I want to reiterate it. I know you've heard it 100 times, but there's still so many people out there that are saying this is Ezekiel 38. No, Ezekiel 38 happens at a time when Israel is dwelling without bars or gates in peace and safety, and there's a surprise attack that comes upon them from Russia, Turkey, and Iran from the north, and Sudan and Libya from the south. This, just a simple reading of Ezekiel 38 helps us understand that is not what we are witnessing. What has happened now? Israel went after Iran, all right? Went after them. Okay, so as we move forward, Israel still has to get to a place of peace and safety. So you enter in Abraham Accords, and again, we don't know for sure how this is going to go, but we know it has to get to that position of Ezekiel 38. It has to get there. We don't know exactly how it's going to get there yet, but interesting things to watch. Avi Lipkin, I've had him on my program many times. He has said there's going to be a Holocaust in America. Maybe this will be part of that. I mean, how many synagogues could get attacked now because of this? I would think Jewish people in America and in Europe especially need to be on alert in synagogues. But Avi Lipkin says the Holocaust will come to America, and Jews will. They're going to go back to the Holy Land. They're going to go back to the land of Israel. How could they go back to the land of Israel unless those areas of Judea and Samaria are much safer than they are right now, in the area especially that I mentioned, some of the hotbed areas. So Israel's going to take control of this one way or another. In Ezekiel chapter 37, in fact, let me read it to you. It's worth noting. I'm trying not to take too much more of your time here. But in Ezekiel chapter 37, the Bible does tell us that in that day when Israel is brought back into the land, they will have up, New King James Bible, an exceedingly great army. An army that exceeds the others. With such a small country, how could they have an exceedingly great army? As you look at what Israel's been able to achieve, it's been absolutely remarkable. Granted, weapons and ammunition from the U.S., and now with the Trump administration doing this, but an exceedingly great army. It's been remarkable to watch what Israel has done. Zechariah chapter 12 also lets us know that in that day, in the last days, that the people of Israel, the armies of Israel, are going to rise up like David against Goliath. So you put those two things together, Israel will have these victories, and we know they're going to have the victories because, again, they have to get to peace and safety in order for last days prophecies to be fulfilled. It will be a fake peace and safety, which brings me to another thing. What happens with a regime change? If you just change out the Ayatollah, who do you get? When you change the leader in Iraq, who do you get? You change the leader in Syria, who do you get? You change the leader in Libya, who do you start looking at these different things when the leader is changed out. Listen, the enemy I know is better than the enemy I don't know, right? So what happens if there's a regime change with Ayatollah? He's removed. Who comes in there? If we are close to the last days that the Bible talks about regarding tribulation and so forth, then that means a leader coming in would have to be a leader who is another liar, but a better liar, and able to convey he is on Israel's side, he's on the U.S. side. It's going to be a fake peace because it has to be a fake peace going forward for Ezekiel 38 to be fulfilled. It has to fool everybody. It will definitely fool Israel. It's going to fool even Israel's Mossad because Israel will lay down their weapons. They're going to be dwelling without bars or gates in peace and safety, peace being a tranquil state. They aren't going to expect Russia, Turkey, and Iran to come against them. So Israel's going to be tricked into some kind of fake peace going forward. Is it going to come out of this, folks? I do not know if it is going to come out of this exact time, but we do know it has to get there eventually. And as you look at things, it's like you can say, wow, what a setup. But friends, I don't know yet. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know, but everything has to eventually go that way, and it appears it is trending that way. How soon? Honestly, I don't know. I plan to continue to preach the gospel in the hope of the Lord Jesus Christ, and until we are called home, occupy until he comes, because frankly, I just don't know when, but I do know it's got to get there, and I don't always know how. And you know, a lot of us can speculate how, but we don't know for sure. My guess is now, just looking at the information we have, Abraham Cords is going to come front and center. There's going to be some type of leader that's going to come into Iran that's going to convey peace and safety. And then you enter in just, by the way, Jeremiah 49, I've been asked a lot about that. Jeremiah 49, verses 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, so forth, where Elam, which is Iran, the bow of Elam will be broken. It appears that could be what's happened right now. Could be. Remember, prophecy is pattern. So you see some Old Testament prophecies fulfilled, but they're ultimately going to be fulfilled in the future, right? We could take that with Antiochus Epiphanies. He was a type of Antichrist who committed an abomination of desolation after the Greek Empire fell at the time of Maccabees, right? But then Jesus says later on, he says, hey, as you read about the abomination of desolation that Daniel spoke about, it's still coming, right? Flee, that's still coming. So we have an abomination of desolation that took place with Antiochus Epiphanies, but the future is still another one. So prophecy is pattern. And so you see certain things that have happened in the past, but their ultimate fulfillment is still going to be in the future. So you see something like Jeremiah chapter 49, the bow of Elam being broken, and you have refugees that flee only to come back in the last days. Listen, with that being said, it is remarkable to watch all of these things that are taking place right now. But we need to be vigilant and stay in his word. Also, friends, I expect to see a greater increase of anti-Semitism coming from the alt-right, people on the right, conservatively. And right now is the time to be strong and strengthen one another, because there's going to be a lot more temptation. You're going to hear a lot more going forward, how Israel shouldn't have our support. They should be able to stand alone. All these different dynamics, right? And there's going to be so much pressure on you, even if you follow Bible prophecy, to just say, I'm done with the whole thing. I'm done with Israel. I don't get it. And we need to link arms, be strong, but stay in his word also. And as I mentioned, I will do a message coming up probably at the end of July, to answer that question I mentioned early on. Regarding Israel. What does it mean to support Israel? A couple more things I want to run by you is we do know that Israel must be here in the last days. Zechariah chapter 12, verse 10, it is Israel that cries out for the Messiah to save them. Also, the psalmist wrote about the Jacob, Israel, will worship the Messiah in Zion. So that's going to be fulfilled in the last days. Hosea chapter 5, verse 15, which I quoted extensively over the last week. The Lord himself, Jesus himself, says in the Old Testament, I will return to my place until you acknowledge your offense, and through your affliction you will turn to me. Right? After 2 days you'll see me. On the third day, I will revive you. Hosea 5:15, and then chapter 6, verses 1 and 2. Read it for yourself. So Jesus, listen, it has to happen. The Jews have to acknowledge their offense and turn to the Messiah, Jesus. Zechariah 12, Hosea chapter 5, verse 15. New Testament passages, Acts chapter 1, the disciples said to Jesus, are you going to restore the kingdom to Israel now? And he says, it's not time. It's not for you to know. Jesus didn't say, no, it's not going to happen. Yes, it's going to happen, but it's not for you to know, to his disciples at that time. And the implication from Jesus is, yes, it's going to happen. To Israel, I'm going to restore it. Matthew chapter 23 totally parallels Hosea chapter 5, Zechariah chapter 12, and even Acts, where he says, Jesus himself said to the religious leaders, you will not see me again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. So we have all these different passages that are just evidence biblically that the Jews still have to be here, and Jesus isn't coming back until the Jews cry out for him. One more thing I want to bring up is anti-Semitism and replacement theology, and these things, they're very anti-Israel. Some people say, I'm not anti-Semitic, I'm just anti-Zion, whatever, right? But these things will be used to drive the people to the Lord. Again, Hosea chapter 5, verse 15. In your affliction, you will acknowledge your offense and turn to me, and I will save you, right? So it's going to happen. Daniel chapter 12, they're going to be purified through the fire. Also, Daniel chapter 12, I will shatter the power of the holy people, right? So the holy people being the people of Israel. It doesn't mean perfect people, by the way. It means a people that are set apart. That's what holiness is. Set apart. In this case, set apart for God's purposes. That's what holy means. Doesn't mean perfect. In fact, in Ezekiel chapter 36, God's very clear. I will bring you back into the land, not because you are good. In fact, wherever I sent you to the four corners of the earth, you profaned my name wherever you went. But I will bring you back into the land because my name is on the covenant. Chapter 37 of Ezekiel is already mentioned. After Israel's gathered back into the land, they will become an exceedingly great army, an army that exceeds the rest. So it's amazing to be alive right now. But one more thing I got to point out is NAR, New Apostolic Reformation. I'm getting a lot of people that are saying this is all about the NAR. They just want to build the temple in Jerusalem, and they're teaming up with these Zionists and all this crazy stuff. Listen, here's what the deal is with the NAR. I think the NAR, if you're familiar with the New Apostolic Reformation, is they themselves are setting themselves up for deception, and I'll tell you why. Basically, they have the Seven Mountain Mandate, and we're going to fix the world, and they give it to Jesus. There's a problem, and it's coming, and I believe it's probably coming soon, that if they want to fix the world and give it to Jesus, eventually they're going to get to a point of turning against Israel. Why? Because something that's going to happen that's going to cause people, it's already coming from the alt-right, that's going to cause people to say, we could have peace in the world if it wasn't for you guys, if it wasn't for Israel. So the world's going to turn against Israel and say, look, all this stuff going on in the Mideast, the bombs dropping, all these things, the U.S. wouldn't have to be involved. If you could get your act together, we are done with you, Israel. So for NAR to fulfill their false doctrine, they're going to need to turn against Israel. And there's some Israeli Messianic Jews that are part of NAR. They will need to turn against Israel because they want to fix the world, and the narrative's going to come about. Israel is the problem. You got to forget about Israel. They're going to have to stand on their own. Folks, that day is coming. All right, so many more things I have to tell you guys, but I think that's enough for right now, because right now, listen, let's just get some Bible. Let's go to the life of David. By the way, Bill Koenig and his wife Tanya Koenig wrote an excellent article. Check it out on their website too. It's really good to help put things into perspective and to pray for President Trump at the same time. God bless you guys. We keep looking up. We lift up our heads because our redemption draws near. And remember this too. Our only king is Jesus. He is King of Kings. He is Lord of Lords. Amen. And listen, just real quick, one thing. When people say, why do you support Israel? Listen, as I mentioned, I'll deal with that in depth coming up at the end of July. I believe it deserves a good, strong, well thought out answer. But listen, I don't support any human leader because they're perfect or good. They are not. I'll say that. There's not one. Hence, that's why we are looking for Jesus Christ. There isn't one human leader that is perfect. That's why that's just one of the many reasons why we need Jesus. Only Jesus is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Only Jesus is perfect. And I say, come quickly, Lord Jesus, fix this mess, because, folks, it's a mess. It's probably going to get messier. Okay, let's roll with the life of David right now.